Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Shit Moms Won't Say. My guest tonight is someone who recently came on my radar, and as soon as I started following her, I said, she has to come on my show. She's a freaking hilarious, kind, smart, just superstar. She's a disability advocate extraordinaire. She just started this really cool new nonprofit called Growing Inclusivity. I can't wait to talk about it. And she is the first foster mom I've ever had on the show. You may know her as Feeding Tube Fitness, Hannah Setzer. Thank you for joining me, my friend. I know you just had some light trauma in your household just a few minutes ago.
Thank you so much for having me. I feel like with the word teenage boys, there's always drama and trauma in the household, but right now, as we speak, there's a mouse in my bedroom under my bed. So, I don't know how these things happen to me, but here we are.
Are you just like one of those people? Like, I mean, Hannah texted me and she was like, I'm coming. There is a mouse under my bed. Like, I don't know. I'm so sorry. And I was like, no, like, I told her, I was like, I would just burn the house to the ground and start over. So, like, I'm glad you're functioning because I'm like not functioning on your behalf.
Well, I appreciate the support. Yeah, we have 4 hats, and there's a hat like intently staring into the corner for the past half an hour. And I told Brandon, my husband, I was like, oh, haha, I think there's a mouse back there. And he was like, no, there's not. And he knew some stuff and was like, oh shit, there's a mouse back here. And then it like started its journey across my bedroom. And I was like, oh, well, okay, I have to go. So deal with this.
You figure it out. I hate to break it to you. I think your cats might be fucking useless.
Yeah, no, okay, so we
Yeah.
have one who's a hunter and he's outside hunting. And he hunts when you shake like medicine bottles. I don't know why. So I was like outside, like, hunter, and he did not hunt. And I was like, okay, well, I
Useless.
need you. This is your time to shine, and you're not here.
Right. You have like one opportunity. Don't blow it. Let's get into the Big Mom 3. I'm excited. Like I said, I've never had a foster mom on the show, so I'm gonna sort of like I don't really have to alter them because I think I'll just do the questions and you answer them however you want. So the first one, I mean, this is, ubiquitous for everybody. Did you always know you wanted to be a mom?
100% not. That was like not my fantasy as a little kid. Like I just never assumed that I would get married. I never assumed that I would have kids. I was pretty like content and dead set on like, oh, like this is just who I am, and I'm just gonna do wild and crazy things, and I don't think I would be a parent. And even when my husband and I were dating, we talked about being foster parents, that I was still like, yeah, like it's whatever, like we do or we don't. I never really was passionate one way or the other.
Yeah. And like I have a lot of moms on here who are like, I never knew I wanted to be a mom. And I'm always like, did you want to have that like cool aunt vibe? Because that's where I always thought I'd end up. And then, lo and behold, I have not.
Yeah. I totally thought that. I had 3 brothers, and they all had kids, and so I'm definitely aspired to be a cool aunt. But yeah, I never thought I'd have kids, and even sometimes now, I don't know how it is as a biological parent, but sometimes even now, like I've been driving in my minivan with 4 kids in the backseat, and I'm just like, how did this happen?
Well, so listen, I'm the non-bio parent. My wife carried, so it's a different scenario. But I hear like you're always like, well, I didn't produce. I mean, she's mine, obviously, but yeah, it's crazy. And it's 4 boys.
Yeah, they are 13, 13, 11, and 10.
Shit. Wow. Well, it sounds like your house is very calm. So that's
sure,
fun.
all the time. Yeah.
Really calm. Really calm.
Yes.
Okay, I always love the answer to this question, and I'm specifically excited for this one. So second question, the Big Mom 3. What is the like shittiest or most backhanded piece of advice or like comment you've ever gotten from another mother or parent?
Oh, man. Well, the first thing that comes to mind is when people find out that we are foster parents and adoptive parents, and they're like, "Oh, I should never do that. I would get too attached." And I'm like, "Do you think I'm just like a heartless like bitch that doesn't care about his kids? Like, I'm too attached too. Like, it is hard, and we are in the adoption process with 3 of the boys. 1 boy is already adopted, and that we've had other foster kids in our house that are no longer here, and like I think about them every day. Like I'm too attached, like so that's like hard to like I understand the sentiment of like, oh, I should never do that. And like I'm not anything special. Like, yeah, it's hard and it sucks, and kids need homes, and we have the home, so this is what we're doing, and you can do it too.
Like, right, it's like one of those things that like someone has to do this thing, and like you have the capability of doing it. Like, okay, you're not capable of doing that. That's fine. Then don't do it. You know, like they don't have to like shit on you for doing something good.
Yeah, so that's like the first thing that comes to mind. Oh, yeah. And I posted on Instagram yesterday because one of my kids got in trouble for doodling naked women on his school computer. And so he got in trouble by the school and by us. And so I talked about it on Instagram, and I was like, what do I do? How do I handle this?
Yeah.
And this is not bad advice, that just like funny advice to go like, just give him a Victoria's Secret hat on and let him go to town. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I guess in the grand scheme of things, that's not a horrible idea. I don't know how to do anything. We're just living life every moment with nice in our house, I guess.
Yeah, that's who you are. You just have mice under your bed, 4 boys, and it's freaking mayhem over there. At least you have your cool shoe trick. That got me good today. You posted that video of you like putting your shoe. You guys have to go to Hannah's Instagram and look at this. She just like puts a shoe all the way around her body, laying on the floor. It got me good. I was like, I can't do that. I could, and I tried. I did go try it, and I couldn't do it.
It's very hard. Right, I want to hear some other things that people say. Like, what do other people say to that question?
So I think like a lot of it is I've had a lot of people like get shamed for breastfeeding. That's a pretty big one. And then I've had 2 separate people get shamed for their kids, like their toddlers, like not wearing shoes, which like my toddler's an animal. Like if she doesn't want to put her shoes on, like I'm not getting her shoes on, like without physically assaulting her. And like, you know, you have to pick your battles as parents. And sometimes like if we're just going in the car, she doesn't need to wear her shoes if she's not going to be walking on the floor. So like I've gotten a lot of like that kind of stuff. Just like other moms, or like, oh, one that drives me nuts is the like, you know, well, little people, little problems, big people, big problems. Like the older they get, like just wait, like that kind of nonsense. I hear a lot, and like I see that as a toddler mom, like, well, you know, she's small. Okay, great. Like, thank you.
Yeah, I guess people have a lot more opinions about babies and toddlers. Like, I haven't really had a lot of people give too much advice about teenagers. There's also, there's like my husband and I talk all the time about like writing a book, because it's like nobody writes books about raising teenagers because they just assume that you have known this person since they were born, and so like there's 10 million books about babies and stuff. and they don't really talk about teenagers because they're like, oh, like, you did all that stuff when they were babies.
I never thought about that. Yeah, that's true.
Like, what the hell? Like, we don't know what we're doing. Somebody like write us a book and tell us what to do. Like,
right. There's no like what to expect when you like adopt a teenager. There's no like I never thought about that. You're right. There's no like parenting. There's like teenager parenting books, but it's all based on like you've raised them so far.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta write that book, man. That's on you.
Yeah, we talk about it a lot. I mean, we don't know what we're doing. Like,
I'd read it anyway. It wouldn't be relevant to me, but I'd read it.
Out here in contemplating dying Victoria's Secret catalogs that teenage boys can run off to. Who knows?
Listen, you're doing the job that people don't want to do. You are. All right, here's the third question, the Big Mom 3. And this one, it'll be interesting to hear from your perspective, because like I always think of this question as like pre-mommyhood, right? Like again, like pre like babyhood. So this is gonna be a little different. So the question is, what is a skill or superpower you had before becoming a mom that you think has really helped you as a mom?
So I grew up in a really great household. My mom and dad are together. I have 3 brothers, and my parents never yelled. Like, we were disciplined, and I sat in timeout a lot because I was wild. But like, they just never, like, yelling was not a noted communication that I had experienced. And no shade to them that my husband was raised the complete opposite with like chaos and yelling. And so I think the ability to not yell has saved me well as a parent. Not to say that I don't ever yell, because it happens.
Yeah, sometimes it comes out and you're like, ooh.
Just growing up with like communication styles and listening and trying to understand, just like not understanding teenage boys. And yeah, I think that definitely has served me well. And the ability to tune things out very easily. I can tune out 4 teenage boys yelling, no problem.
It's a good skill. That's a real good skill. That's awesome. Well, listen, speaking of teenage boys, so let's get into it a little bit. Like I said to you, you are the first foster parent I've had on the show. And I think it's because like, I don't know, people don't post about foster parenting enough. Like, it's not something that people really understand the process. Like, everyone knows foster parents exist. I think the assumption is like, well, if you foster, like a dog, right? You foster to adopt. That's what you do. Like, no, that's not that's not what it is. So I would love to hear like just a little bit about the process and like the feelings around like foster mommyhood,
Right. Yeah. So like I said, we talked about becoming foster parents when we were dating, and Brandon was like, sure, whatever. And he is very anti-changing diapers, so he was happy to not have biological children and have to change diapers. And after we got married, I saw a genetic counselor to see if any of my medical stuff was genetic, and it wasn't. And so then we went to see like a preconceptive. Hold on. Let me not yell at my kids. I'm doing an interview. If you cannot stop, we are going to get
I'm not even editing it because it's a mom show. Like, sometimes you gotta go lay the friggin' smack down, Come on.
So we saw a preconceptive counselor at the gynecologist office, and we were talking, and I had a feeding tube, and I was like, hey, what happens with my feeding tube if I get pregnant?
Oh
And she
yeah.
was like, oh, like, you'll just eat my food. And I was like, no, when you get pregnant, your belly gets bigger, and there's a hole in that belly. What happened to that hole? And she said, oh, I don't know. And then I stood up and walked out. We were like, oh, hey, bye. This is not what we're doing. And so we like looked around and found foster parent classes through a private agency in our city. And we started classes November 2018, and they took about 6 months. We were licensed in April of 2019. And the day that we got licensed, we got a call for a 15-year-old girl, and we said yes. And we were like, well, we have to say yes to somebody.
Yeah.
So here we go. And so said yes to a 15-year-old girl, and she moved in like 2 days later. And we were like, had no idea what we were doing. Like, twice, like, she was so kind to let us figure out how to become parents as she figured out how to be in foster care. And we had a very steep learning curve together. And she was in our house about 6 months. And halfway through that time, we were found out that he was 12 at the time, a 12-year-old boy. And we said yes to him too. And he is now 14, and he's been adopted by us, our son Nate. And yeah, and has said yes to Nate's brother in September 2020. And then December 31st, 2020, we said yes to two more boys.
That's so cool. It's just amazing. Like, and like I hate that people say to you like, oh, I couldn't do that. Like, again, like I'm with you. I get the sentiment because it's really fucking hard. Like that's a really hard thing to do. And it's amazing. Like I actually didn't know like the like in and out type of process, right? Like the girl comes in, you're like, okay, I could adopt her, or like I will help get like
so the goal of foster care is always reunification. So you're doing everything you can for them to go home. And then parents have a plan that they have to do too. And so hopefully the parents are working on their plan simultaneously so that they can be reunified. And so that was always her goal, was to be reunified with her mom. And when we said yes to Nate, that was his goal, but just due to circumstances, the goal changed to adoption. And we said yes. And all of our other boys' goals changed to adoption as well.
That's really interesting. So like again, I totally didn't realize that. Like, of course, there's like a reuniting plan like in place that would make a lot of sense. Very cool.
So like from the minute kids come into foster care, they had a plan, and parents had a plan, like, and as a foster parent, you're doing everything you can to support the kid, the parents, like doing visits together.
I was gonna say, you interact with the parents, like you get to know the parents as well to try to like bring them home.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah, you're just a hunting team, and you're doing everything you can to support these parents and getting their kids back home.
That's amazing. That's so cool. Thank you. That's really cool. And I'm like, I think people are gonna learn from that and be like, I didn't know that. So that's awesome. I want to shift gears a little bit because you and your husband just started a freaking non-for-profit. That's pretty cool. Can you talk to me about it a little bit? It's called Growing Inclusivity.
It is, yeah. So I constantly had been like audacious dreams, and my husband does not, but he's like, oh, hey, here we go. and so we went out in the country, and we had a little fun, and we lived around a lot of times. And there's like 2 food lions and a Walmart, and that's like about it. There's like McDonald's and Dunkin' Donuts.
Where are you?
Outside of Richmond, Virginia.
Oh, yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and we're a county called Palatine. And one day we were just talking to some friends, and they were like, "Oh, like I wish there was like a coffee shop that we could go hang out at." And we were like, "Yeah, like there's not really not any coffee shops here besides like Dunkin' Donuts." And so we were like, "Oh, like let's start a coffee shop." Not that we know how to do that, but we were just like, "Oh, like we saw a need, like there's not one here, like."
Right. How hard could it be? Yeah.
Sure. And so I just started telling friends about it, and I was like, "Oh, like we should have a playground so like the kids can play, like moms and dads can have hockey, hang out, whatever." And then somebody was like, "Well, the playground is going to be accessible, right? Like for kids with disabilities and parents with disabilities." And I was like, "Yeah, duh." And then things just kind of snowballed from there. I started a GoFundMe, and we ended up in the Washington Post in June, which is like crazy and great. And
yeah, that's like some legit shit getting in the Washington Post. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, it was not expected and super amazing. And yeah, just kind of like my work as a disability rights advocate was talked about, and just I talked about how growing up, I don't have any physical disabilities, and I mean, I had a feeling too. So I guess I do. But I'm not in a wheelchair or anything like
right.
I'm very mobile and agile. And there's like never any spaces that I felt comfortable in as a kid just because of how I looked, and I wasn't around other kids with disabilities very often, and like in school or in the community. So yeah, I talked about that, how like I mean inclusive and accessible spaces are so important, not just for disabled people, but for the community in general. Like I want libraries to be exposed and to learn from and to play with and imagine with kids not like themselves. And so the dream just kind of got bigger and bigger, and that started a nonprofit called Growing Inclusivity, and my husband is in a horticulture program right now, so he was gardening and trees, I don't know. And so he wants to start an accessible garden where people can come and take classes and be a part of the community garden that's accessible to people in wheelchairs and other disabilities. So yeah, we hope to build an accessible playground here in community garden, and then start a cafe, coffee shop. And we talked about starting a laundromat because there's not any laundromats here or in the surrounding like 3 counties, which is strange. But yeah, we hope to teach people with disabilities stuff and employ them in the cafe, and work with kids who are in and out of the foster care system. Because when you turn 18 and you're in foster care, you are out of foster care and you're just on your own. And unless you're adopted, and the statistics are like outrageous about like homelessness and suicide and other like not great things to kids who are 18 out on their own. And so yeah, that's our hope. and we are raising money, and we're selling merchandise and taking donations on growinginclusivity.com. And yeah, and we are just trying to find some land out here in Powhatan to make it all happen.
That's so great. That's so cool. And I also, another thing you said I didn't realize, like obviously like at 18 you're out of foster care. Like you're not an adult at 18.
I know.
Like I was an asshole at 18. I'm an asshole at 35. Like I was, like I don't know what I'm doing. Like
yeah.
that's crazy. Well, that's amazing. So at growinginclusivity.com, we'll obviously like tag everything out so people can find it and donate. Go donate and buy merch and do all the stuff because it's a good cause and you should do good things for good people. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox. All right, let's start to wrap it up. This was so fun having you here. Okay, I have two like final questions. Again, big curveballs. You're gonna be like, I can't believe you asked me those. So first one, 4 boys, all like in the preteen, teen range. What is something as a mom you cannot live without?
Alexa to tell my kids to do things when I'm not here. Bernie and I always joke that like Alexa is our third parent. Like she's like, feed the dogs, feed the cats, like feed the toys, like and she's so like scheduled out, and so when we are not here, Alexa is in charge.
Alexa's an amazing co-parent, is what you're
saying. She really is.
She's the co-parent.
Yeah.
She should get an award. All right, last question. What is something you know now that you wish you knew before becoming a mom? I know, right? Crazy.
Everything, like how fun it is, and how fun and funny and amazing these kids are, but also like how every day is hard, and I feel like sometimes they wake up and straws about like who's going to be insane that day. And yeah, so this is how hard it is and exhausting.
I always like to ask people, like, if you did know that before, like if somebody were able to give you like a view into it, would you be able to like even comprehend it? Like as a like even if you could, and that's why like I think that question's fun because like even if you're like, I know this before, you don't. Like how could you know?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't change anything. Like I wouldn't say no to being a foster parent or adopting these boys. Like I wouldn't change anything. But yeah, I mean, just so yeah, it's just hard. Like we took teenagers specifically because we were like, oh, like they can take showers, they can make their own breakfast, like they're self-sufficient. And I'm out here like, oh, yes, they can do all those things, but they also.
But will they?
Can get in trouble for doodling dudes on their store computer. Like, oh.
Right, they're like looking up like naked women on the internet. Like it's good that they showered by themselves. But then,
Yeah, it's just every day is a new surprise of things that I just didn't anticipate happening, but here we are.
Well, listen, between your kids and your mouse, you have your hands full. So I hope you go catch that mouse. Where can people find you on Instagram, your website? What's all your info?
Oh man, so many things. They can find me on Instagram at Student Fitness, and they can find Growing Inclusivity at Growing Inclusivity on Instagram, Facebook, and just growinginclusivity.com. Bernie and I had a small business making everyday products. You can find that at handcrafted.hannah.com. I'm just all over the internet.
I love it. She's just a little bit of an internet slut. I will I'll tag everything out though so everybody can find all your stuff and follow along and all the good stuff you're doing. Thank you so much again for being here. And thank you for watching Shit Moms Won't Say. We'll see you next week.
Shit Moms Won't Say!